Welcome to my series on getting started riding horses. This is my first video showing you how to find the perfect barn and what to consider when you're looking for a new riding instructor. Choosing the wrong riding instructor can waste your time and money, or give you a terrifying experience that could get you hurt. But don't worry, I've got your back. In this video, I'll teach you the top 3 things and how to spot any red flags. I've also included a link in the description to my free checklist for finding the right riding instructor, so make sure you check that out. For those of you that are new here, I'm Nell, a horse training and riding instructor with over 30 years of experience teaching people how to work with horses. I've taught thousands of lessons and watched hundreds of instructors working with students and horses of all ages. I also hire and train riding instructors for our lesson and riding schools. So let's get started. Number 1, how and where to start your search. Google, websites, and social media are your best friends. You want to look for something in your area. And although they fit more important than distance, if the drive is laborsome, this won't be something that you'll be able to maintain long term and in all kinds of weather. Searching for riding lessons near me is a great way to start on Google. And it's going to populate something like this, with a map and locations. I tend to start with locations that do have active websites. This way you can poke around and probably find preliminary information about what programs and pricing they offer. If you are just beginning, then discipline, that's a fancy word for what style of riding you will be doing, doesn't really matter. As in the beginning, the basics and foundation of all riding styles are very similar to start. If you know you want to do something specific, then you'll want to search out barns that specialize in specific types of riding. For instance, if you want to learn to barrel race, then you'll probably be looking for a barn that teaches a Western style of riding versus a barn that specializes in English. Once you've found some contenders with your Google search, then head to social media. Facebook is probably your best bet, followed by Instagram and TikTok. Here you can search specific stables that you found in your internet search, or type into the search bar in Facebook, riding lessons near me. I guarantee when you do that, any of the riding stables that are advertising are going to start showing up in your news feed and ads. I don't think that's a bad thing. First of all, it shows you which barns are currently taking new students, and it's a great way to find specials and deals. Definitely do your homework. Check out their pages and their reviews. If there's a pattern of good or bad reviews, then that does carry some merit. Look at how current their posts are. If they were posting regularly and now you see their last post was a lesson that took place years ago, that's probably an indication that they may be out of business or are not currently teaching or taking new customers. One last place I would recommend searching is on Groupon. You might not think Groupon for riding lessons, but actually, quite a few barns are doing business on Groupon. It's a great source for reviews and comparing prices. Not to mention, there's some business security there because these businesses have been approved by Groupon and have policies in place that protect the consumer. One thing to remember about a riding lesson Groupon versus some of the other services that you might purchase on Groupon is that after you purchase your Groupon, you will still need to reach out and make an appointment. Otherwise, they won't know you're coming or have a horse available if you just show up. Number 2, how to reach out the right way. We want to make sure that you reach out the right way. I love on Facebook when there's a contact or call button, as most likely those accounts are pretty responsive. Now, most riding instructors are wearing a lot of hats. And if they're riding a horse or teaching a lesson, they probably won't pick up the phone and they'll have to call you back. Depending on how much staff they have, I would expect about 24 hours for them to get back to you. Now, it might be much sooner, but most riding instructors batch those calls at the beginning or end of the day. I'm here to tell you, most horse trainers love texts and messages over phone calls and will probably get you a quicker response that way. With that being said, if they don't get back to you in 24 hours or after multiple attempts, then you should look elsewhere. In today's market, it's about customer service. And if they ignore you now or call you back a week later, then they'll ignore you later too. In my business, we're very responsive, and to me, there's no excuse not to be. In general, you want someone who respects your time and values your business. Number 3, ask key questions before visiting. Now that you've gotten in touch with an instructor, It's important to know what questions to ask. You want to ask important questions, but ultimately you are probably going to schedule a visit or tour to the barn, and there'll be more opportunity to ask in-depth questions in person. The 3 questions you want to ask over the phone are about schedule, price, and their program. When are lessons available, and how many instructors do they have? Riding is a service business, so most facilities teach when customers that work 9-to-5 jobs are available. This includes nights and weekends. Let's say you only have 1 day a week you are available, then make sure that the place you've picked can accommodate that. I believe if they have more than 1 instructor, that's to your advantage, because everyone is a slightly different style, so as long as the education is consistent, it's good to have options. And that also means they usually have more availability in scheduling, and they have backup to cover lessons if an instructor is out. Next, let's talk price. And I'm not going to compare prices because it varies a lot depending on geographic location and discipline. For example, if you're on the East or West Coast, lesson prices are typically higher than if you're doing riding in Montana. Disciplines like jumping, reining, and cattle events are typically higher because those horses and instructors are more specialized, and there is added costs in equipment and the actual cost of those horses. Also, there are types of lessons where you would typically be the only one in the arena, and there are other lessons where several riders can ride at the same time. If you'd like to share what your lesson costs are in the comments and where you're located, that would be great information for those just getting started. In Wisconsin, our ranges for private lessons start around $65 for 30 minutes and go up to about $120 for longer lessons. Next, you want to ask about the riding programs. Find out if they specialize in a specific style of riding. Do they have horses suitable for beginners? And do they teach beginners? Do they have lesson horses? And how many lesson horses are in their program? You just need a few horses at your level to learn. If a barn only has 1 beginner horse, that's okay too. But consider that horse can only teach 1 person at a time, so scheduling could be an issue if that horse has multiple riders on the same day. Many times a program is limited to what level rider they can teach, because the lower the level of rider, the higher the level of training that horse needs to have to be safe and suitable. Now is a good time to mention if you have any physical limitations or even anxieties worth noting. Maybe you had a bad accident in the past. You want to make sure the instructor is able to work with you, and you'll be able to tell right away from their answer. Finding the right riding instructor can make or break your riding experience, so take your time. Ask the right questions and trust your gut. If you found someone knowledgeable and you like what you're seeing online and in the reviews, you've found a great place to start. If you don't, then keep looking. If you're in an area with multiple barns, it's a good idea to find several barns to visit and compare. If you like this video, watch our next video in the series, covering what to look for in your first barn visit. Remember to download the free checklist for finding the best riding instructor in the description. Have any tips or crazy lesson stories? Drop them in the comments. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you in the next one.